Just minutes ago, President Trump wrapped up his State of the Union address. It was a record 1 hour and 41 minutes long.
He focused largely on the economy, attempting to calm jitters ahead of midterm elections in November. And he said the country is winning under his leadership. Here's part of what he said and the Democratic response from the governor of Virginia.
Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before. One of the primary reasons for our country's stunning economic turnaround, the biggest in history, where the Dow Jones broke 50,000 4 years ahead of schedule, and the S&P hit 7,000, where it wasn't supposed to do it for many years, were tariffs.
Since this president took office last year, his reckless trade policies have forced American families to pay more than $1,700 each in tariff costs. Small businesses have suffered, farmers have suffered, some losing entire markets. Everyday Americans are paying the price.
All right, there was a lot there tonight. Let's bring in investigative reporters Kirsten Swanson and Ryan Raish to fact-check the president's comments on Minnesota.
Now, from immigration to fraud, the state's been the focus of the Trump administration for months, but Kirsten, really not a lot of mentions tonight.
Boy, no, the president only mentioned Minnesota twice, the same amount of times that he uttered the word fraud. Here is what he had to say about that.
When it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that.
R5 Investigates Fact Check places the statement in the needs context column. It is true there are members of the Somali community who are charged in more than a dozen fraud cases. Some are already convicted. But the conversation about widespread, pervasive fraud in safety net programs and that big number really ramped up in December. That is when federal prosecutors in Minnesota pulled Medicaid data that showed since 2018, $18 billion of taxpayer money was paid out in 14 different high-risk programs. At the time, then Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson estimated half or more of that was fraud.
I don't make these generalizations in a hasty way, so when I say a significant amount, I'm talking in the order of half or more. But we'll see. When I look at the claims data and the providers, I see more red flags than I see legitimate providers.
Now, at this point, there's been no evidence to back up or disprove that number. Prosecutors at the time, if you remember, Ryan, had mentioned that they were still trying to firm up exactly what that was.
Okay, Kirsten, and the president also brought up illegal immigration.
And Ryan Raish is checking those comments for us. Ryan.
Guys, 3 words not mentioned by the president tonight. Operation Metro Surge, the operation that consumed this state for months and continues to be felt today, but it was never even brought up. Here's what he did talk about when it comes to immigration in Minnesota.
The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA, and it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem.
All right, there's a lot to unpack here, but 5 Investigates finds this statement falls between fault and needs context. Yes, it is true that we have a large Somali population. Census data estimates as big as 108,000 people, enough to fill Target Field and U.S. Bank Stadium to capacity and then some. But here's the distinction. Most Somali immigrants came here as refugees fleeing a civil war, and that is not unrestricted immigration. Refugees go through a vetting process before relocating to the United States, and the census estimates that about 95% are U.S. citizens. And as Kirsten said, it is true that some members of the Somali community have been charged and convicted of fraud here in Minnesota. But when the president says they're raising prices, we found one study from Concordia University that estimates Somali Minnesotans pay about $67 million in taxes and leave about an $8 billion economic impact. So again, that is something that is missing context tonight, guys.
Ryan Raish and Kirsten Swanson from 5 Investigates. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, guys, for breaking it down.